The second Catherine's mother pointed her finger at my face in front of 37 people, I made a choice that would rewrite my entire future. I just didn't execute it yet. That's what nobody warns you about. The dangerous calm before the storm. The pause. The way a man can smile, nod, pour himself more lemonade, and map out an entire escape route inside his head without anyone noticing. I'm Joseph Taylor. Catherine and I were married for 11 years. I was the guy who patched up her parents' flooded basement, drove her sister Zoe to the airport at 2 a.m., and showed them to 14 family reunions without a single complaint. 14. I kept count. I should have started sending invoices around year 10. I need you to understand the man I was before that weekend, because that's the only way you'll grasp who I became after it. You're watching Dad's Sweet Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember this: every villain in these stories genuinely believed they were the smartest person in the room. They were dead wrong. Hit subscribe so you never miss what comes next. The Taylor Whitmore reunion happened every summer at Catherine's parents' lake house in rural Tennessee. 40 minutes from anywhere. No cell service. One bathroom in the main house, one in the guest cabin. Beautiful spot, honestly. But family gatherings have this special talent for turning beautiful places ugly. Catherine had spent 6 straight weeks hyping this reunion. It'll be great, Joseph. Everyone's been asking about you. I smiled. I'm sure they have. Totally sure. Amber specifically asked if you were coming. Amber, Catherine's older sister, the one who once told me at Thanksgiving I was doing pretty well for someone without a graduate degree while refilling her own wine glass. Real gem. Can't wait to see her, I said. Catherine shot me that look. The one that says, please behave yourself. I gave her the smile that promised, I always do. We drove up Friday evening. The drive itself was the highlight of the whole weekend. Windows down, Catherine's hand on my knee, good music playing. I remember thinking, this is right, we're good. I should have turned that car around and called it a vacation right there. We arrived to Zoe screaming our names from the dock. Joseph, Katie, oh my God, you're here. Zoe was 24, the youngest, and the only one I actually liked. She ran at us with the energy of someone who'd already polished off 3 seltzers before sunset. I caught her mid-air and spun her around. Looks like you started the fun without us. I started it specifically for you, she grinned. Behind her, the rest of the family materialized. Catherine's parents Evelyn and Richard, her sister Amber with husband Hayes, her brother Bennett and his girlfriend Sydney, then the cousins, aunts, uncles, and various extended relatives I could never keep straight. Dylan was there too, Catherine's cousin, 29, perpetually jobless, and somehow always the most comfortable person in any room. He had the energy of someone who'd never experienced a single inconvenience in life. I found that deeply suspicious. I shook hands, hugged necks, made conversation. I was good at this. 11 years of practice. Joseph. Evelyn, Catherine's mother, greeted me with that signature smile of hers, the one that reached her eyes just enough to technically qualify as a smile. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, I said. She patted my arm once, light, the way you'd pat a piece of furniture you're still deciding whether to keep. I didn't know it then, but that would be the warmest she'd treat me all weekend. Here's what I've learned about family disrespect. It never shows up as one big event. It arrives in fragments, small, dismissible pieces. Each one individually nothing, collectively everything. Saturday morning, breakfast on the back porch. Everyone seated. Evelyn had made her famous biscuits in casserole. She walked around filling coffee cups. Richard, Amber, Hayes, Bennett, Sydney, Dylan, Catherine. She skipped me and went back inside. I sat there with an empty cup. Hayes caught my eye from across the table and immediately looked away. Sydney suddenly became intensely fascinated with her biscuit. Catherine hadn't noticed. She was laughing at something Amber said. I got up, went inside, poured my own coffee. Nobody mentioned it. Saturday afternoon, the men on the dock. Richard was talking about a drainage issue on the property. He looked at Hayes, he looked at Bennett, he looked at Dylan, who once left a ladder on a roof for 6 months. Richard asked if any of them had time to take a look. "I can handle it, Richard. I did your basement a few years back. I know the property." Richard's response was smooth, pleasant, as if I hadn't spoken. "I think Hayes has more experience with this kind of thing." Hayes looked at me with an expression that was half apology, half relief that it wasn't his turn to be invisible. I nodded. Sure. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last time I'd offer that family anything. Saturday evening. Dinner. Long table set up outside. Fairy lights. The lake in the background. Genuinely beautiful. Catherine was glowing. This was her world, her people, and she was happy. I loved seeing her happy. Hold on to that part. It matters later. Zoe sat next to me. She was my buffer and she knew it. "You okay?" she whispered, refilling my glass without being asked. "Outstanding," I said. She gave me a look that said, "I see you." I gave her one back that said, "I know you do." Dinner conversation flowed like it always did. Sports, property values, other people's drama. I was happy to eat well and stay out of it. Then Dylan opened his mouth. "So, Joseph," he said, loud enough that the whole table shifted attention. "Catherine tells us you've been doing really well with the business." I looked up, something in his tone. "Going all right," I said. "What is it again? Landscaping?" Dead silence. Because Dylan knew exactly what I did. Everyone at that table knew. I'd spent 4 years building a mid-sized commercial property management company. 12 employees, 43 properties. Catherine had talked about it at every single family event for years. Property management, I said. Calm, pleasant. Only shadows melting into darkness. Dylan nodded slowly, the way people do when they want you to know they're unimpressed. Right, like mowing lawns and stuff. Amber laughed. Light, conversational, the way you laugh when a joke lands. Catherine said nothing. I looked at her. She was cutting her chicken. She'd heard. She was choosing to cut her chicken. "Sure," I said. "Like that." I didn't know it yet, but Catherine's silence at that table was going to cost her everything she thought she had. Sunday, the last day, the day everything shattered. We were cleaning up after lunch. People drifting between the dock, lawn chairs, and kitchen. I was helping Bennett carry folding tables to the storage shed when Amber found me. "Joseph, can I talk to you for a second?" Bennett gave me a "see you on the other side" look and vanished. Amber stood with her arms crossed. Yellow sundress, an expression she'd been building all weekend. I could see it now. She'd been saving this. "I want to be straight with you," she said, "because I think you deserve honesty." The words, "you deserve honesty," from a woman who'd been passive-aggressively undermining me for a decade, should have been my cue to walk away. I didn't. "Okay," I said. "Catherine isn't happy." I waited. She tries to hide it, but we all see it. She's stressed, unhappy. Amber tilted her head. "We think it has a lot to do with you." There it was, the whole weekend condensed into one sentence. Finally honest. "Amber," I said carefully, "this is between me and Catherine. It stopped being just between you two when it started affecting this family." "What exactly is affecting this family?" She listed it. My long hours, my obsession with work, the way I never fit in at family events, how I was cold with her parents. I stood there, I listened, and I thought, so this is what it was always building toward. "I appreciate the honesty," I said when she finished. "I really do." I walked away, found Catherine by the water, standing alone, looking at the lake. "Hey," I said, sitting next to her. Amber just cornered me. Catherine kept her eyes on the water. "I know." "You know? She mentioned she wanted to talk to you." I looked at the side of her face. "And you didn't think to warn me? Or tell her not to?" "She's not wrong, Joseph." Catherine said it quietly. "You do work too much. You don't try with my family. My mom feels like you don't respect her." "Catherine, your mother skipped my coffee cup at breakfast." She forgot. She didn't forget. Catherine turned to look at me. In her eyes was something I hadn't seen before. Not anger, this distance, like she'd already stepped back and was watching me from afar. Maybe, she said slowly, this weekend was supposed to help. Maybe if you just tried a little harder. I've been trying for 11 years. She had no answer for that. She turned back to the lake. I didn't know it then, but this was the last conversation Catherine and I would have where she still felt like my wife. An hour later, the whole family had gathered on the back porch. I don't know how it assembled. These things never have a clear origin point. One minute I was in the guest room collecting myself. The next I walked out to find 30-something people arranged in the loose, dangerous formation of a group that had been discussing you. Evelyn stepped forward, holding a glass of iced tea like a prop. Something to do with her hands. Joseph, she said, I think we need to clear the air. I looked at Catherine. She was standing with Amber, their shoulders touching. All right, I said. What followed was 15 minutes I'll never fully describe, because there are no words that carry the precise weight of being talked about, judged, and sentenced in front of your wife's entire family, while your wife stands on the wrong side of the room. Evelyn talked about respect, about family, about how they tried to include me and found me resistant. Richard nodded at appropriate intervals. Amber added color commentary. Dylan ate a cookie through the whole thing. Then Evelyn said the words, Joseph, I think you have two choices here. You can apologize to this family for how you've treated us, sincerely, and we can move forward. Or, she gestured vaguely toward the driveway, maybe it's best if you go. The porch went dead quiet. I looked at Catherine one more time, slow, deliberate. She looked at the floor. You have two options, Evelyn said again, firm, like a judge. Apologize or leave. I took a breath, and I chose the third option. I smiled, actually smiled. I could see it unnerved several people. Thank you, Evelyn, I said, for the clarity. I walked inside, went to the guest room, pulled out my phone, opened my airline app. 3 taps, Nashville to Chicago, a 6:45 p.m. departure, 2 hours away, one way. I booked it before I'd even finished unzipping my bag. One way, not drama, honesty. I packed efficiently. Years of business trips had trained me well. Folded everything with the calm of a man who'd already made peace with his decision. Zoe appeared in the doorway. Joseph. Her voice was small. What are you doing? Packing. Joseph, don't. Come on. Just talk to them. Just. Zoe. I looked at her. I'm not angry at you. I appreciated Bennett, genuinely. I looked at Catherine last. She stood very still, her face white, like she'd expected me to fold and was now recalculating everything. Catherine. I said her name once, like a period, like a door closing. Then I walked to my car, put my bag in the trunk, and drove away. I didn't check the rearview mirror, not because I was being cinematic, because I didn't need to. I already knew nobody was running after me. The drive to Nashville was 43 minutes. I remember it as the quietest stretch of time I'd experienced in years. No podcast, no radio, just the highway and my thoughts finally having room to breathe. My phone buzzed at minute 12. Catherine. I let it ring. Minute 19, Amber. I almost laughed. Then Evelyn. That one genuinely surprised me. Then Catherine again. Then a text from Catherine. Joseph, where are you going? Call me. Then this is not okay. Then after a longer pause, I read that last one at a red light just outside Nashville. Please. One word. And I could hear exactly how she'd said it. Not scared, not sorry, just inconvenienced. The pleas of someone who expected the problem to solve itself. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat and drove to the airport. Left my car in long-term parking. The gesture felt right. I wasn't rushing back. Sat at the gate with a bourbon and a silence so complete it felt like a physical thing. Like I could press my hands against it. Called no one. Texted no one. Boarded when they called my row. Landed in Chicago at 8:17 p.m. Took a cab to my office. I kept a small apartment-style suite connected to it for late nights. Let myself in, poured water, sat in the dark for a while. Then I picked up my phone and did something Catherine would never have expected. I called my attorney. She was brilliant, methodical, and had seen every variety of marital collapse in her 20-year career. She answered on the second ring. "Joseph, it's Sunday evening. I know. I'm sorry, but I need to talk." A pause. "How bad?" "I need to know where I stand," I said. "If I wanted to move forward." Another pause. Then the sound of a chair. "Tell me everything." What Catherine didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been quietly building something for 18 months. Not because I planned to leave, but because I'd started to feel the edges of something. The way you feel a draft before you find the broken window. And I'd done what I always did, prepared. The business was in my name, solely. I'd restructured it 14 months ago after a particularly tense conversation about finances. A conversation I'd filed away and not forgotten. Our joint accounts existed, but the primary assets, the real equity, lived in a corporate structure that a good attorney could navigate cleanly. I'd also been documenting, not obsessively, not vindictively, but I kept records of certain things. Financial decisions made without my input. A pattern of exclusion I'd noted mostly out of professional habit. The kind of documentation instinct that runs in people who build things and want to protect them. My attorney called me back Monday morning. "You're in a strong position," she said. "If you move now decisively, you control the narrative." "What does that look like?" she told me. I listened. I took notes. By Tuesday, papers had been filed. Catherine found out Thursday. Not from me, but from the courier who showed up at her mother's lake house, where she'd apparently stayed after the reunion. Waiting. Expecting me to come back and apologize. My phone rang 11 times in 4 minutes. I let every call go to voicemail. Then I sent one text to Catherine. The only communication I initiated in that entire period. "You stood on the wrong side of the room. I won't be filing any counter-arguments." She called back instantly. I answered. "Joseph." Her voice was shaking. "What did you do? What needed doing?" "You filed for?" "Yes." "This is insane. Over a family argument?" "Catherine." I kept my voice level. "This wasn't a family argument. Your family has treated me with contempt for 11 years. This weekend they told me to apologize or leave, and you stood there and watched. You didn't say one word." "I was going to. You didn't." "Joseph, please, we can fix this. Come back and will." "I'm not coming back." I said it with the same tone I'd used to close any business deal. Final, clear, no room for renegotiation. "You can't just..." I heard her breath catch. Then the sound of voices in the background. "Evelyn." I was almost certain. And the shift in Catherine's voice when family is listening. "This is not over," she said. "Yes," I said. "It is." I ended the call. You might expect the next part of this story to be about guilt, about lying awake wondering if I'd made the right call, about long, difficult nights of second-guessing. I slept like a stone. Up at 6 a.m., at my desk by 7. By 9, I'd handled 2 client calls and reviewed a contract. The world kept moving when you stopped carrying people who refused to carry themselves. The texts kept coming. From Catherine, from Amber, which I found audacious. Even one from Bennett. "Man, I didn't think it'd go this far." I wrote back, "I did." He never responded. Dylan texted something I won't repeat. "Doesn't deserve the ink." Zoe called once. I answered. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm good, Zoe. Genuinely. Catherine's a mess. I imagine. She keeps saying you blindsided her." "She had 11 years of warning signs," I said. "I'd call that the opposite of a blindsiding." Zoe was quiet for a moment. "Joseph, for what it's worth, you didn't deserve what happened this weekend." "No," I agreed. "I didn't. I'm sorry I didn't say something. I should have. You're not responsible for their behavior." I still should have said something. I thought about that. "Yeah," I said finally. "You should have." It was the most honest thing I said to any of them. The divorce proceedings moved faster than Catherine expected. She'd assumed, I think, that I'd slow walk it. That distance would soften me. That time would manufacture nostalgia. That I'd eventually pick up the phone and suggest counseling. that we'd spend 6 months negotiating our way back to the same arrangements with better language around them. That was not who I was anymore. My attorney was surgical. The business assets were protected. The property portfolio was structured correctly. We had a joint home, a significant one, and that became the primary negotiation. Catherine had a good attorney too, I'll give her that. It wasn't a clean split. Nothing at that level ever is. But when the papers were finalized 7 months later, I walked out of that mediator's office with my company intact. My future clear, and the strange, uncomplicated lightness of a man who has stopped pretending. 14 months after the reunion, my company had added 6 new properties to its portfolio. I'd promoted 2 employees who deserved it and hired a director of operations so I could, for the first time in 4 years, take a weekend off without the world ending. I'd bought a condo downtown, clean lines, good light, 0 emotional residue. I had, by every measurable metric, thrived. I know this because Amber told Catherine, who apparently couldn't stop tracking my professional activity on LinkedIn like it was a wound she kept pressing. Catherine's attorney made a last-ditch attempt to claim some portion of the business's recent growth. My attorney made a counterargument so thoroughly documented that it ended the conversation in one session. I heard through Zoe, who remained the one functional member of that family, that Evelyn had told people I was struggling after the divorce, that I'd gone off the rails, that the business was probably going under. I found this deeply entertaining, because here's the thing about people who mistake your patience for weakness. They build an entire story around it. They need you to be struggling. They need the man who walked away to be crawling somewhere, quietly, just out of sight. It confirms the version of events where they were right and you were wrong, where the reunion was just a dramatic blip and not the verdict it actually was. I wasn't crawling, I was building. But the best part, the part that closed the chapter for me completely, came 18 months after the reunion, at an industry event in Nashville of all places. I was there for a property development conference. 3 days, good connections, useful conversations. On the second evening, at a rooftop reception with about 200 people, I walked into a cluster of professionals near the bar and found Hayes, Amber's husband, that the business was probably going under. I found this deeply entertaining. Because here's the thing about people who mistake your patience for weakness. They build an entire story around it. They need you to be struggling. They need the man who walked away to be crawling somewhere, quietly, just out of sight. It confirms the version of events where they were right and you were wrong, where the reunion was just a dramatic blip and not the verdict it actually was. I wasn't crawling, I was building. But the best part, the part that closed the chapter for me completely, came 18 months after the reunion, at an industry event in Nashville of all places. I was there for a property development conference. 3 days, good connections, useful conversations. On the second evening, at a rooftop reception with about 200 people, I walked into a cluster of professionals near the bar and found Hayes, Amber's husband, standing there with a drink in his hand and an expression that suggested he very much wished he was somewhere else. We looked at each other for a moment that lasted approximately forever. "Joseph," he said. "Hayes." There was a beat. Then, to his credit, he said, "You look well." "I am well." He nodded, looked at his glass. "Listen, I want to say, I didn't agree with how that weekend went. I want you to know that. I studied him. You were there, Hayes. I know. You didn't say a word." He had the decency to look genuinely ashamed. "I know that too. I could have accepted the apology. I could have been gracious, shaken his hand, let him feel better about it. That's what the old Joseph would have done. The one who fixed the basement and drove Zoe to the airport and showed up to 14 family reunions without complaint. I appreciate you saying it," I told him. "But I'm going to be honest with you, Hayes. An apology after the fact, when there's no cost to it, it doesn't really mean anything." I picked up my drink. "Have a good evening." I walked away. This is what nobody tells you about choosing yourself. It's not loud. It's not a scene. It doesn't look like the dramatic movie moment where the strings swell and everyone realizes they were wrong. It's quieter than that. It's a man packing a bag while his wife stands by the lake and decides the floor is more interesting than his face. It's a one-way ticket booked in 3 taps. It's a phone left face down on a passenger seat. The revenge, and yes, I'm calling it that because I'm done pretending it was anything other than what it was. Wasn't a single moment. It was a sustained choice, repeated every morning when I woke up and went to work on something that was entirely mine. It was the Monday after the reunion when I called my attorney instead of calling Catherine. It was the way I answered that last mediation question, calmly, with documentation, while Catherine's attorney scrambled. It was every missed call I let go to voicemail, every text I didn't answer, every night I slept without apology. Evelyn wanted me to beg, Catherine wanted me to come back, Amber wanted me to struggle. Dylan, I'm still not sure what Dylan wanted, but whatever it was, I refused to provide it. They gave me 2 options. I took the third, and here's the part I think about sometimes, quietly, on the good mornings when the coffee is right and the city is just waking up outside my window. They thought the third option was leaving. It wasn't. The third option was not looking back. 14 reunions I attended. 14 years of coffees I poured myself. 14 years of being the man in the room that the room decided not to see. They spent years making me invisible. The day I walked out, I made them disappear. I just didn't need to be in the room to do it. If this story hit home, hit that like button and subscribe for more real, raw, and family-centered content.